Welcome to Malcolm Out Loud TV. This is Shannon Rose filling in for Malcolm Out Loud. Today's guest has been a minister for the last 13 years and has worked in the media industry for over 20 years. He's here to discuss the morality in media and how has it changed from the past to the present. In the 80s, we saw guidelines that were so strict that you couldn't even swear or show nudity. Now that is common practice, yet it was scrutinized for Janet Jackson's wardrobe slip at the Super Bowl. Why? And that's why we have Kimo to enlighten us. How you doing, Kimo?
Doing good. It's good to see you, Shannon.
Good to see you. And we've known each other for many years. And let me start off here. You're a Christian. Do you find a conflict between your beliefs and what you see in the media today?
Absolutely. I mean, today's media line has been, and I always say that, he's pushing the envelope. It just keeps on getting further and further. It's almost like they're following the trend behind how Hollywood is. Hollywood has defined that envelope, right? And now media's jumping on the bandwagon, and you've seen news reporters who don't report as news anymore. They actually are editorializing, right? You don't want to do that. I mean, that's a job of people that are talk show hosts and entertainers. You're supposed to
And the news
report.
also has become more salacious too. If you look at what a lot of the stories that they cover is either involved with nudity or sexual relations type activity. So I mean, whatever you're watching, it seems like you're watching a skin flick almost sometimes.
Well, exactly. And that's what it's come down to. And again, it's pushing that button. Why? Because it comes down to ratings. It comes down to viewers. It doesn't come down to being what's traditionally known as reporting the news anymore. That's kind of gone out of the window in the last 3 to 5 years.
Now you take a look at back in the day when I Dream of Jeannie, when she couldn't even show her belly button. Yeah. Now you're seeing on, I think, what was it, NYPD Blue or one of the shows, you saw buttocks revealed, and that was, oh wow, this is incredible. How can they do this? Now you're hearing 4-letter words used, curse words used on regular broadcast TV. How do you think morality in the media or morality in TV in Hollywood has changed over the past 30 years?
Well, here's something that people don't know. Do you realize that prior to the first rated R movie being made, 10, right? You didn't have these kind of things. Why? Did you realize that the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church used to have their own movie production houses? But for whatever reason, they felt that it wasn't profitable. And it was shortly after they, threw in the towel and said, we're just not going to focus there. You had the first rated R movie. You had your first nudity scene. And then from there, now here comes the language, and then here comes the vulgarity, and now you look where we're at, and we arrive today in 2011, and it's way over the top.
And it's nothing to see, now you go in movie theaters, to see kids going to see rated R movies, even though they're not supposed to. Most of the parents are bringing their kids, even NC-17 movies, there's been children in there. And, what kind of restrictions, should the movie industry restrict themselves? Should there be some kind of monitor? Because it used to be where, they had these ratings, and they still do, but it seems like they're lacking in being, how would you say, more of a judge?
Well, I think it's the parents you have to look at. The parents are the ones that have to instill the discipline into their children. It's not the movie industry. I mean, you can have smoke. You can't smoke unless you're this age or whatever, but you're still going to have kids that are going to go in and try to buy cigarettes and buy liquor, right? So that has to be a restriction there. But when it comes to the movie, companies, it's not really their job. They put on that rating. It's really, I would say, the movie house's job. AMC and Regency and companies like this, they need to focus a little bit more on that. But it's the parents' job to discipline and say, you know what, I know you want to see that movie, but it's inappropriate. Go see something that's PG-13.
A lot of the times the kids work at the movie theaters, so they can't be the ones that say, they're underage themselves at times. And you take a look at it. I mean, back in the day, I had to go with my parents to go see Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I had to go sit there with my parents because they
dating yourself there, bud.
Yeah, I know. They had a problem with me going to see The Last Dragon because it was PG. But now again, kids are going in to see, and there's very few G movies. When you look at a lot of the morals in movies and in media, why do you think it's changed? What has taken place? What aspect has changed?
Well, it's the morals and the ethics of America. When you look, again, you talked about how, I Dream of Jeannie, you couldn't even show a belly button. Today, I mean, if you were to say that to teenagers today that there's not going to be any belly button shown, well, I'm going to go see that flick, dude. I mean, come on, man, that's boring, man. We want to see some skin. I mean, that's what it's come down to, and it's because it's that envelope that keeps on getting pushed further and further and further. I mean, you look at homosexuality, how you go maybe 10, 15 years ago, you'd never even see shows about it, but now you've got Modern Family and just the list keeps on going on. And there's a difference between showing truth, and it's a whole different thing of pushing the line of moral and ethic issues. And that's what the media is now jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, Hollywood's been doing it for years. They just keep on pushing it and pushing it. And if you keep on going to watch the movies, how's it going to happen? You'd have to stop watching the movies. Is that going to happen? I don't see it in the near future.
And I'm sure with all the talk of Wienergate and Schwarzenegger and Tiger Woods, that it brings up conversation that sometimes you don't want to discuss with children when they're 8, 9 years old about sex. And now the parents at times have to, but they don't even. And that's where you get children having children.
Yeah, baby daddies. You know, look, here's the thing. Again, it goes down back to the parents. If the parents instill the discipline, if the parents explain to the children when they're of age, it doesn't mean 8 or 9. You may have a 9-year-old girl who absolutely understands.
But these things in the media, though, are causing of an interest for kids. They're like, well, why are they joking? And then also you have to blame people like Jay Leno. And I don't say blame, but because everybody's doing it. But they're making jokes out of a man's situation, which brings the topic of conversation about it.
But then again, why would you have a child that's 8 or 9 up to 11:30 watching Jay Leno?
Trust me, I'm sure they are these days.
Comes back to the parents, and the parents have to set boundaries. And if you don't set boundaries, then hey, free reign, and they're going to watch Jay Leno, and then they're going to want to see these buttons pushed and envelopes pushed more and more because they have no boundaries. That's what it comes back to. It's still the parents.
Do you think that if there was less nudity, less swear words, that people would still watch TV?
Sure, because again, it's the standard. It's the standard. If Hollywood would have never pushed this standard and they would have kept it where it was 10 years ago, folks would have no other means. They still have to watch the movies that are there, and it wouldn't have as much skin and not dropping F-bombs every other word and these kind of things. I mean, that's not how people talk. See, Hollywood has displaced this mentality that this is how normal folks talk. You know, we drop F-bombs.
But is it the exercise of free speech, though? That's the question.
There's a difference between creativity, and there's a difference, again, when you have these rules that say a 13-year-old shouldn't be watching a rated R movie. But if the parents are dragging them in there again, I'm going back to the parents. The parents have to be, and second of all, maybe it's not parents, it's parent. It's just a mom or it's just a dad now. And that's the other thing. You've got to have that balance. It can't just be all male and all female in a child's life.
And they don't bleep the 4-letter words, but they do bleep God, the word God in some shows.
Because that's offensive, and especially Jesus. I mean, you can't, you can go around, you can talk about Allah, you can talk about Buddha. Nobody gets, their feathers into a ruffle, right? They don't get ruffled. But when it comes to Jesus or God, that becomes offensive because, man, you're pushing this on me. And you know what? Religion should never, of any kind, should never be pushed on somebody. It should be presented, and then that's why God gave us free will. We have the choice. I can either choose God or I can say, I hate you, God. And God gave you that free will so you could make that choice.
Isn't it a responsibility of the news media also to focus on stories that are news-oriented rather than fluffed, as we discussed?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why they're called news reporters. If they don't like that, and they want to become a talk show host, then stop reporting the news and have, again, a magazine type of show or whatever.
And the parents that are watching out there, what should the parents do? What should guardians do to instill? And we're not here preaching. We're not here, we want to be here to talk about the fact that the morality has changed. It seems like if you take a look at what happened with Janet Jackson and what happened at the Super Bowl, how things have changed. I mean, they were freaking out over that, but now you can see that on, nighttime TV.
Yeah, are they freaking out about it, or is it now, oh, this is out, and if you talk about it...
I mean, in France, in other countries, it's okay. I mean, that's nothing. You go to beaches and it's everywhere.
Different standard and a different culture. Again, think about this. The naked body is not perverted. It's a man's or a woman's mind that makes that naked body perverted.
And speaking of which, if you look at Hugh Hefner, and again, done stuff with Playboy with my PR company, so I have no quorums against them, but then you take a look at times that they had a thing against the Playboy magazine, but now it's well respected. On NBC, they're going to have a Playboy Club show.
Again, pushing the envelope even more. For what? Ratings. Ratings equal dollars. Dollars equal more money in folks' pockets.
So
that
what would
greedy.
you tell them out there then? What would you tell the parents or the guardians what to do, how to reinstill what should have been there from the beginning?
Well, first of all, your kids shouldn't be staying up late and you have to set rules. If they're staying up late, take the TVs out of their room. My son is 4 years old. Ask him, does he have a TV in his room? No. Ask him if he has a computer in his room. No. Will he one day? When he shows that he can be responsible, right? So for parents of today, what I would recommend is that you've got to set boundaries. And at a young age, once they understand, again, they got that free will that God's given us that I speak of. But a 4-year-old doesn't understand what free will is. All they understand is what, you've heard me say this, Shannon, before. There's 2 trinities in this world, right? You've got what the Holy Trinity, right? Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. But then you've got the world's Trinity, which is me, myself, and I. And this is all I like. So if you go, I can have it my way when I want it. And that's natural. That's natural. My son who's 4 years old, everything's mine, mine, mine. That's the way he was born, okay? So what you have to do as a parent, you have to instill that, we have to learn to be selfless, and you also have to understand that there's a set of rules and there's boundaries. And when you stay in front of these and make good choices, then guess what? Great things can happen. But when you make the bad choices, which we've seen many, many parents and even now children, how does that affect them later in life? And you wonder why they're sitting out there on the corner with the little yellow vest on, will work for food. And come on, be real.
Kimo, my friend, thank you so much for being on and enlightening us. I'm Shannon Rose filling in for Malcolm Out Loud. Remember, get involved, get loud, and think on the brink.